that was one person's narrative, and that it was almost my job and my responsibility from that point on to present another narrative, a true narrative of people of African descent. So, Community Book Center, I guess, was born somewhat after that, and I want to go back further to make the connection, as Doc said, connecting the dots. My whole interest really began in 1969. As a 10-year-old student in New Orleans, my cousin was a camp counselor at a NORD, which is New Orleans Recreation Department, at a after-school program. Now, growing up in my neighborhood, NORD was only summer camp. We went to summer camp, we played, we had snacks, and we went home. I had no idea that NORD was a year-round program, that they had ballet classes, they had art lessons, they had all types of sports activities that children in other communities took advantage of and participated in. Well, my cousin, being a camp counselor, decided to include me. So she brought me to this art class, and in this art class, I was the only African American child. I must say that I felt intimidated, that they were far more advanced than I was in terms of their drawing skills, and I really didn't feel welcome. So I shied away from doing the whole drawing and art thing. However, one thing caught my interest. In the same place where they had the art classes was a doll museum. I was fascinated as a 10-year-old to see all types of dolls that were on shelves and pedestals and behind cases. I couldn't believe that people had dolls that they didn't comb their hair, that they didn't change their clothes and give them baths, and just hang out with them, bring them wherever they went, like their babies. And so thus I developed an interest in doll collecting. Now, this same cousin went away to work in New York, and she presented me with my first two dolls, which to this day I still have. One was an Asian, like an Oriental doll, and the other one was like a caveman doll. But I still have it. It's wooden with a little fuzzy suit. And of course, there was nothing to comb on his head. But anyway, thus began my interest in collecting. So I must say that I have an extensive doll collection. Now let's go back to the presentation. I said all of that to say that it is extremely important, particularly that we begin to expose young children to museums and art so that they can begin to develop an interest and an understanding of what these institutions represent, as well as their roles in them. Now, I kind of remember going to NOMA and other museums. I do remember growing up in school, we always went to the Wildlife and Fisheries Museum as a field trip in New Orleans, and we also went to Musée Conti, the Wax Museum, and I was always fascinated. But one of the things that I do remember is not really seeing people that looked like me working at the museums or in capacities other than maybe the custodian, or I don't even think we were security guards at the time, but I didn't see myself in those types of positions. So as I went back to school after 30 years and enrolled in the Museum Studies program at Southern University in New Orleans, for which I would recommend to anyone who's interested in pursuing a degree in museum studies. I still was interested in making sure that the true history and the narrative of people of color was presented, and also that exhibitions reflected the communities for which they served, in addition to the fact that as a potential museum professional myself, that I wanted to be a role model and to be able to create opportunities for little young people to be able to see themselves in museums and other arts institutions. However, I'm sad to say that in 2015, 16, and 17, as Dr. E pointed out in his presentation, we're still at 4%. So minute level, 4%. Again, early exposure is important, and I knew that part of well, first I wanted to present for my final project, I wanted to present my collection. Everybody was doing exhibitions of their art and other people's collection, and I wanted to kind of like do that at first, but then I said, no, I really want to do something programmatic. I want to do something educational, and thus I got this idea to begin to do something that would interact with young people, which I really enjoy doing, that would have an impact on their lives and hopefully begin to help them to realize their role as cultural preservationists and guardians and gatekeepers of their culture. I wasn't aware of the normal program of creative careers prior to beginning AMP, but I decided that I was going to submit a grant to Joan Mitchell Foundation, which was funded, to work with young people ages 13 to 18 and to create opportunities to expose them to galleries, libraries, archives, and museums in hopes of getting them involved in being a part and immersed in museums and in arts institutions. I thought it was really, really important after doing my internship at the River Road African American Museum with Kathy Hambrick, where I had an awesome experience and gained a lot of knowledge about operating a small house museum. So I gathered together with Dr. Eid and Dr. Hollis. We did an application process and we had an overwhelming response. What I did realize is that, as Jennifer mentioned, we had a range of 13 to 18-year-olds, and you know, sometimes people don't follow directions. I had at least 35 applications from a middle school for students from like 9 to 12 years old. So what that said to me was that there's a need to go even younger. What I also learned that 13 to 18 is a large gap, and so what ended up happening, the bulk ended up being 13 to 16. Because what I did, I had some awesome 18 and 17-year-olds, but what I found out, it was their senior year, and so they were involved in all kinds of school activities, so they could not commit to the 6-week Saturday sessions that we had. We got together. Many of the students expressed an interest in photography. And so, as Jennifer said, we interviewed them and we talked to them. Some of them had been to museums, but many of them had not been to museums that they were really interested in going to, or been to museums where they saw themselves represented, or they felt welcome. So we got together and we went to, we had our initial orientation at the New Orleans Jazz Museum, and then we went to the Agda Museum. They had an opportunity to visit an exhibition at the Agda Museum where they saw the collection of the Journal collection, which was a black female collector. We also went to Stella Jones Gallery, so they had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Jones. One of the pictures reflect that, and then you can get a closer look at the poster. We also visited the Amistad Research Center, where they had an opportunity to look at the archives and learn how research is important, and also that there are resources in the community that can help them. And we went to Donaldsonville, where we attended a workshop by Gaynell Brady, which I understand she presented yesterday, where she did a genealogical workshop for young people. That day, we went to the River Road African American Museum as well. So what we realized was that in talking with them, SUNO brought them to see the collection of African art at SUNO, and we ended our program with lunch at Dookie Chase Restaurant, where they had an opportunity to see a historic New Orleans site, as well as a supporter of the arts with the art in the gallery. What happened afterwards, we talked to the students and asked them what was the highlight of the program for them. And they said that the genealogical project was the highlight for them because they actually could participate and learn more about their family history and culture. I might add that this program was somewhat out of the box in our area, and people were really excited about the impact that it was having on young people. So as a result of that, Duchenne House, which is an order of the Sacred Hearts in New Orleans, partnered with me, Community Book Center, and wrote another grant to do an intergenerational genealogical project, which will begin this October. So it's an opportunity to continue the work with the young people and have them have an opportunity to do more hands-on research. I just think that it's important that we realize the benefit that our communities, our institutions can have when we begin to diversify not only our staff, but our programming, and include younger people and give them an opportunity to do hands-on stuff, not just mediocre tasks, but really do hands-on activities. So if you have any other questions, we will be glad to entertain them. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you, and I hope that you will take this information back with you and recognize that there are young people in your communities that can make an awesome contribution to your institution or your agency. Thank you.
I know we're kind of a little bit over time, but the next presentation is us too, so yeah. Fine.